nomadic.
How's it going, guys? I'm Nomadic, and today we're at episode 6 of the 2000 XL video series. If this is your first time watching this video, I recommend you start on episode 1 so everything makes sense up until this point. Today we're going to be talking about the parameters screen and a little bit more detail about that, like the fine tuning and the filtering and the attack and decay and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to take a look at that in this episode. So, I made a little bit of changes to this beat. I added some drums that I thought fitted. And I did some changes in the program settings, but we haven't talked about it yet, so I'd like to cover that really quickly. So as you can see in track 1, I have my sample from before loaded up. So let's go into the program settings so we can play with it a little bit. So if you go Shift Program, Drum Holder 2, which is where I have it set, you can play with it in the program. So we're gonna go to Parameters. And in parameters, this is where you can, manipulate a little bit. Like you have, your velocity envelope on this side. You have a filter over here, tuning, and you have your overlap in terms of mono and poly and all that stuff. So, I like how this sounds, but maybe, we could play with it. Maybe tune it up or down or something. See what sounds good. I ended up choosing -10 because I thought that sounded pretty good. So if you want to tune all your pieces to -10, you have to do it manually. So this is -10, but the others aren't. So you need to go to each one and change the tuning. So in order to do that, you can type it in on the number pad. If you want to put in negative numbers, though, you need to hit Enter, type in the number, and then hit Enter again. So they're both at -10. So I'm going to do it for all of them. Oops. So now it sounds like this. So I thought that was pretty good. So, that's playing with the tuning. In my other tracks, I loaded up my drums. So if you go back to your program settings in drum holder 1, this is where I got my drums. So I have my kick drum here, and if you see down here, I have mode set to simult. So basically what I'm doing is I have a couple other drums over here that I am playing at the same time as I am with this one. So basically I'm layering drums together just to give the kick drum some more thickness. In order to do that, you basically just change the mode to simul, and you just pick the pad that you want to layer with it. So it's pretty simple. I did that with the kick, the snare, same deal, with the hi-hat too. And I did a little bit of changes with the kick. Like, the kick I thought sounded pretty cool, but it sounded a little bit high to me. So I went to the filter and brought the frequency down a little bit, just so it gives it a muddier sound. Something really low like down there, but I kept it at 70 because I thought that sounded pretty good, something around there. And let's see, what else did I do with the hi-hats? I created these hi-hat sounds. I liked this sound that I used, but it sounded a little bit too sharp, so I went to the attack and the velocity envelope and I brought this up a little bit, so it gives it more of that like fade in kind of sound. I used something around 3. Thought that sounded pretty good. And, obviously, I changed the tuning on a bunch of these drums just so they all fit together. And last thing was, for my bass, on the overlap, I changed it to note off, because if it's on mono, I can't really control the ending of it. But if I hit note off, then I have control over it. And I adjusted the decay a little bit, so it would be shorter but not too short. So you can play with it start or end. If you have it at 0, you don't even hear it. But if you bring it up, It's got more of a release, you know, and I thought it sounded pretty good around like 75 or so. So that's all my sounds and stuff. And yeah, I ended up making a beat out of that. So that's all my stuff. That's the program settings right there. All right, I hope that was clear. Next week is going to be our last episode, and we're going to be talking about recording sequences. So stay tuned.